She was just a maid, but she knew more than her billionaire boss. When she warned him about the business meeting, what he uncovered next will shock you. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling stories. Also, like, share, and comment the city where you are watching from. Vincent Moore, the billionaire CEO of a multi-million-dollar empire, had everything. Power, wealth, and influence were his daily companions. Yet, on the day of a crucial business meeting that could decide the future of his empire, something unusual happened. Sarah, his maid, who had always been quiet and unobtrusive, stopped him as he prepared to leave. Her eyes were wide with concern. "Please, sir, don't go," she said, her voice trembling. Vincent paused, glancing at her. She rarely spoke unless spoken to, and this was unlike her at all. "Why?" he asked, half amused. "It's just another meeting, Sarah. You worry too much." But Sarah's gaze didn't falter. "It's dangerous, sir. Please trust me." Vincent chuckled, dismissing her warning as nothing more than superstition. "I'm fine, Sarah. Everything will be fine." He left, but her words clung to him in the back of his mind. He shook them off as foolishness. After all, he had bigger things to worry about. The business meeting. The meeting room was filled with his closest business partners. Tension hung thick in the air, but no one spoke of it. The moment Vincent stepped in, the room grew colder. His partners seemed distracted, their eyes darting to one another, whispering under their breath. Vincent sat at the head of the table, waiting for the meeting to begin. Yet something felt wrong. Just then, a strange interruption. A phone call. The voice on the other end of the line was muffled, but there was an unmistakable sense of urgency, a mention of the plan that would be executed today. "Everything okay?" Vincent asked his partner, trying to make light of the situation. His partner nodded quickly, but his eyes betrayed him. Vincent felt a sense of unease creep up his spine. What was going on? He brushed it off as nothing more than paranoia. But as the hours wore on, the meeting felt like a trap being slowly sprung around him. As the conversation continued, the door opened and a man entered without any introduction. His presence was unsettling, as if he didn't belong there at all. No one questioned him. Vincent didn't know what to make of him, but the man's cold stare sent a chill through his body. It was only when Vincent noticed his business partner glance nervously at the stranger that he realized something wasn't right. This was no ordinary business deal. The man didn't speak, only watched. A knot formed in Vincent's stomach. The strange series of events. As the day wore on, strange occurrences continued to unfold. His trusted business partners, usually so polished and composed, began to act erratically. One was clearly sweating, another kept checking the door as if expecting someone. It wasn't until Vincent got up to leave that things took a dramatic turn. A sudden crash interrupted the meeting. Vincent rushed out to find a broken window, shards of glass scattered across the floor, and an envelope. He picked it up. Inside was a simple note. "You've been watching your business, but what have you missed? Sarah knows. Be careful." Vincent's heart raced. Sarah, the maid? What did she know? The more Vincent thought about it, the more his mind raced back to Sarah's warning. She had never shown signs of anything other than quiet obedience. But was that all there was to her? The mystery deepened when Vincent returned home. As he walked into his mansion, his thoughts whirled. He found Sarah in the kitchen, calmly preparing his dinner as if nothing had happened. "Sarah," he asked, his voice low and tense, "what do you know about today?" Her hands paused as she looked up, her expression unreadable. "What do you mean, sir?" He showed her the note, his eyes narrowed. "This note said you knew something. What's going on, Sarah?" She stared at the note for a moment, then slowly looked back at him, her expression unreadable. "I don't know what you mean, sir. You've been on edge today. Perhaps it's just the stress of the meeting." Vincent stared at her, but something about her calm demeanor didn't add up. Was she hiding something? Just as Vincent started to question everything, he received another call. His business partners, those he thought he could trust, had betrayed him. But the real shock came when Sarah finally spoke up. "I had to do it," she said quietly, her voice breaking the silence. Vincent froze. "What?" "I never wanted to hurt you," Sarah continued. "But I had no choice. They made me do it. I had to help them take you down." The shocking truth unraveled before his eyes. Sarah wasn't just an innocent maid. She had been forced into a much larger game. She was caught in a conspiracy, one that had been in motion long before Vincent even realized it. But as the truth sank in, Sarah's next words sent Vincent's world spinning. They weren't just after your business, they were after you, and everything you hold dear. As the reality of the situation hit him, Vincent was left with one painful truth. Trust was a fragile thing, and now it had been shattered. Sarah wasn't the villain. She had been manipulated too, her hands tied by forces more powerful than she could resist. The meeting he thought would secure his future had instead opened a door to a much darker conspiracy. And the worst part? He might never truly know who was behind it all. The next day, Vincent could barely shake the events of yesterday. He had returned to his mansion, but everything felt off. Even the air around him seemed thick with unanswered questions. He had trusted Sarah, trusted her more than anyone in his life. But now, with the cryptic note and her strange behavior, he didn't know who to trust. His mind kept circling back to that moment when she had so calmly told him, "You've been watching your business. But what have you missed?" Was there more to her than he had realized? Was Sarah playing some sort of game? Or was she truly just a pawn in a much larger conspiracy? The hidden agenda. Vincent needed answers. As he would soon find out, would come in the most unexpected ways. That evening, after a long day filled with frustrating meetings and phone calls from partners who were now acting oddly distant, Vincent received another phone call. This time, it wasn't a business call. It was a private number. He hesitated before answering. The voice on the other end was low and cryptic. "Vincent Moore, you're playing right into their hands. Sarah isn't just a maid. You're being watched. Everything you do, every step you take, is being tracked. You need to stop trusting people and start trusting yourself." Vincent's heart raced. He had heard whispers of betrayal, but this was different. "What do you want from me?" Vincent asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The voice chuckled ominously. "Find out who you're really dealing with, Vincent. Your empire is about to crumble, and Sarah? She's the key to understanding why." The line went dead. The hunt for the truth. The next morning, Vincent couldn't focus on anything. His entire world was slipping away. His business empire, once an untouchable fortress, was now a house of cards ready to fall. But then, as if on cue, Sarah reappeared in the kitchen. She seemed normal, perhaps too normal. She greeted him with a simple, "Good morning, sir," as she prepared his breakfast. But something in her eyes told a different story. Vincent watched her carefully, his mind working in overdrive. Was she the innocent maid she appeared to be? Or was she, too, playing a role? He needed answers. "I'm going to find out the truth, Sarah," he said, his voice steady but laced with an edge of danger. "And I'm not stopping until I do." Her reaction was immediate. She froze, her hand hovering over the pan, then quickly resumed her task without saying a word. Was she afraid? Or was she hiding something? You will find out soon. Vincent decided it was time to take matters into his own hands. If Sarah wasn't going to give him the answers he needed, he would find them himself. He started by searching her room, a place he had never bothered to invade before. What he found shocked him to his core. In the bottom of a drawer, tucked away beneath a pile of clothes, was a small notebook. Vincent flipped it open, his hands trembling as he read the first few pages. The entries were filled with details about his business dealings, names of people he trusted, notes on the meetings he had attended, and, most chilling of all, a list of his closest allies, along with detailed notes on how to bring them down. It was clear Sarah had been keeping tabs on everything. But for who? Vincent confronted Sarah, the notebook now in his hands. His heart was pounding in his chest. "Sarah, what is this?" he demanded, his voice shaking with fury. Sarah, standing there in silence, finally looked up at him. Her face, usually so calm and collected, was now pale, and her eyes showed something Vincent had never seen before: regret. "I didn't want you to find out this way, Vincent," she whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "But it's too late now." Vincent's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Sarah took a deep breath before speaking the words that would forever change his world. They've been watching you for years. Everything you've built, everything you've achieved, they want it. They want you gone, and I was sent to make sure you would fall. Vincent's mind reeled as the truth hit him like a tidal wave. He had been living a lie all along. "Who are you, Sarah?" he whispered, the weight of betrayal suffocating him. "I'm just the messenger," Sarah said softly. "But I can't keep playing this game. I never wanted to hurt you." Before Vincent could process her words, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving him standing there holding the notebook, the weight of her confession hanging heavily in the air. But just when he thought he could make sense of it all, the phone rang again. This time, the voice on the other end wasn't a stranger, it was someone Vincent knew all too well. "Vincent," the voice said coldly, "you're running out of time. The meeting you've been avoiding, it's happening now, and this time, there's no turning back." Vincent's heart pounded as the line went dead. Who could he trust now? Was anyone really on his side? Vincent's mind raced as he stood frozen in his luxurious office, the phone call still echoing in his ears. The voice had spoken with a cold finality, leaving him with no room for doubt. His life was about to spiral out of control, and the danger was closer than he thought. He paced the room, unable to focus. The notebook in his hands felt heavier now, its pages filled with the cold, calculated details of his downfall. Sarah's confession was still fresh in his mind, but there was one thing that gnawed at him. Why? Why would she, someone he'd trusted, betray him so completely? And who was really pulling the strings? His thoughts were interrupted when he noticed something odd. A single envelope tucked behind a stack of paperwork on his desk. No return address. He opened it, his hands trembling, only to find a single line of text written in bold, urgent letters. "You can't escape the game." Vincent's pulse quickened. The mystery was deepening, and the pieces weren't falling into place. Was this another warning? Or had someone been watching him all along, just like Sarah had? With no time to waste, Vincent set out to find Sarah. But as he made his way through the mansion, he realized she was nowhere to be found. Her room was empty, and her belongings had been packed up. She had disappeared. Panic started to creep in, but Vincent pushed it down. He needed answers, and he needed them now. He called his most trusted associate, Michael Gray, a longtime business partner and friend, hoping he could offer some clarity. But as the phone rang, Vincent's unease grew. Michael had always been there for him until now. The call finally connected, and Vincent's voice was sharp with urgency. "Michael, where are you?" "Vincent, listen to me carefully." Michael's voice was calm, too calm. "You need to leave the city, now. Trust me."
"Michael, what is going on?"
Vincent demanded, his frustration boiling over. "I can't leave. This is my empire. My life is at stake here." There was a long pause before Michael spoke again. "You don't get it, Vincent. They've been planning this for years. You've been played. Everything is set in motion, and you're already in too deep." Vincent's stomach dropped. Who is they? And what do you mean I'm already in too deep? "Just go, for your own safety. The meeting you avoided, that was the real trap." The line went dead. Vincent stared at the phone, his mind whirling. The pieces were starting to connect, but not in the way he had hoped. The meeting, the phone call, Sarah's warning it, was all part of a larger plan. A plan that had been in motion long before Vincent had ever realized the danger he was in. Without thinking, he grabbed his coat and rushed out the door, determined to take matters into his own hands. But the moment he stepped outside, he was met with a shocking sight. The same man who had entered the business meeting days before, the mysterious figure who had given him such an unsettling feeling, stood, waiting by his car. His cold eyes locked onto Vincent's, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "Who are you?" Vincent demanded, trying to steady his breathing. The man didn't answer immediately. He simply smiled a smile that was anything but reassuring. "I'm just the messenger," the man said cryptically. "But you won't have to wait much longer for the answers you seek." The man then handed Vincent another envelope. This time, Vincent opened it without hesitation. Inside was a map of the city with several locations marked in red. "Follow the map," the man said, turning to walk away. Your answers lie there, but be warned, you're about to learn the truth about everything. As Vincent's eyes scanned the locations on the map, he realized they weren't random spots around the city. They were places he knew, places that were central to his empire. But as he made his way toward the first location, his mind raced. Who could have set this up? Who knew all this? The plot was thickening. His friends, his partners, his trusted maid, they were all part of something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. The question now was, who was behind it all? Vincent arrived at the first marked location, a lavish, abandoned building he recognized as a place where deals had been made long before his rise to power. Inside, the room was dimly lit. A single chair sat in the middle of the floor, and standing beside it was Sarah, her face devoid of emotion. "You," Vincent whispered, his voice shaking. "What is this? What are you involved in?" Sarah finally looked at him. Her eyes were filled with sadness, but there was something else there, a sense of finality. "I didn't want this for you, Vincent," she said, her voice low. "But there's no going back now. The game is set, and you've played your part." Vincent's heart pounded as he approached her. "Tell me the truth, Sarah. Who's behind this?" Before she could respond, a door slammed open. Vincent spun around to see Michael entering, his face grim. "It's time to end this," Michael said, his voice cold. Vincent's world began to crumble as he realized the shocking truth. Michael, his longtime friend, was part of it all. A pawn in a game far darker than he could have ever imagined. The tension in the room was palpable as Vincent stood there, his mind racing to process the betrayals around him. But as he faced the truth about Michael, Sarah, and the conspiracy that had engulfed his life, one question remained. Who could he trust now? And what would he do to survive? The room felt suffocating as Vincent's mind processed the bombshell that had just been dropped. Michael's oldest, most trusted friend, his confidant through thick and thin, was part of the conspiracy. He had been orchestrating the entire plot against Vincent, and now the painful truth was starting to sink in. "Michael, this is insane!" Vincent shouted, his voice breaking with a mix of disbelief and fury. "After everything we've been through, how could you do this to me? Why?" Michael's face remained cold and unreadable, his eyes devoid of the warmth that Vincent had always relied on. "Vincent, you don't understand," Michael said, his voice low. "This isn't personal. This is bigger than both of us." Vincent took a step back, his chest tightening. "Bigger than us? Bigger than our friendship?" The words felt like a slap in the face. "You're too caught up in the empire you've built, Vincent," Michael continued, his voice betraying no emotion. "You're blinded by it. It's time for you to see the truth." Vincent's mind raced. What truth? Had everything he'd worked for been a lie? Was this all part of a plan he never saw coming? "Who's behind this, Michael?" Vincent demanded. "Tell me, who's pulling the strings? What game are we playing here?" Michael remained silent for a long moment before he finally spoke. "It's not what you think. But trust me, Vincent, you're about to find out. And when you do, you'll understand why I had to do this." Before Vincent could ask more, Michael turned and walked away, leaving him standing in the middle of the abandoned building, the weight of betrayal crushing him. Vincent stood in the silence, the room spinning around him. His best friend, his brother in all but blood, had just walked away from him as if they had never shared a history, a bond that ran deeper than business deals and power. And yet, Michael's words haunted him. "You're too caught up in the empire. It's time for you to see the truth." Vincent had to get to the bottom of this. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized how deep the web of lies went. Who could be behind this? The thought that it might be someone closer to him was unbearable. He left the building, stepping into his car, the weight of the world on his shoulders. The drive was long, but his mind was elsewhere. What truth was Michael talking about? His gut twisted with a sense of impending doom. Vincent arrived at his mansion, the familiar sights offering no comfort. Inside, everything felt cold and distant, as though the walls themselves were closing in on him. His mind kept racing. Sarah, Michael, what were they all hiding? He went straight to his father's study chief, Alexa, place that held both warmth and tension in equal measure. Chief Alex, a man of power and influence, had always been a source of both pride and pressure for Vincent. His father's empire had been built on years of strategy, ruthlessness, and ambition. Vincent had admired him for it, learned from it, but now, everything felt like a lie. "Father?" Vincent called out, his voice shaking with the weight of everything he had just learned. Chief Alex looked up from his papers, his stern face breaking into a rare smile. "Ah, Vincent, just the man I wanted to see. Come, sit." But Vincent couldn't sit. Not now. Not when everything felt like it was unraveling. "I don't want to sit, Father," Vincent snapped, his anger bubbling to the surface. "I need answers. Michael's turned on me. Sarah's been lying to me. And now, I find myself questioning everything. What's going on?" Chief Alex's smile faltered, and Vincent noticed something in his father's eyes, a flicker of uncertainty, quickly masked by his usual steely resolve. "You've been under a lot of pressure lately, son," Chief Alex said, his tone calm but distant. "You need to take a step back. Let me handle this." "I've been handling this all my life," Vincent shot back. "And now I'm being betrayed by my best friend and my maid? What the hell is going on, Father?" Chief Alex stood up, his imposing figure towering over Vincent. "You need to trust me, Vincent. This isn't as simple as you think." For a moment, the two of them stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Vincent could feel the truth. The real truth was just within reach, but it was like trying to grab a shadow. "I don't know who I can trust anymore," Vincent said, his voice breaking. "I thought I had everything under control, but now I'm questioning everything, including you." The words hung in the air like a confession. Just then, Vincent's phone buzzed. It was a text message from Michael, one he hadn't seen before. "You'll never see it coming, Vincent, but when you do, it'll break you. I'm sorry." Vincent's heart sank as he read the message. What had Michael meant by this? His father's voice broke through his thoughts. "You've always wanted to be more than just a businessman, but your desire for power, for control, is clouding your judgment." Vincent's chest tightened. He was losing control, but he didn't know how to stop it. "That's the problem, Vincent," Chief Alex continued, his voice cold. "Your empire isn't your own. You were never meant to run it. I built this empire, and I'll decide who controls it next." Vincent froze, his mind racing. What did he mean by that? As Chief Alex turned his back, Vincent realized something terrifying. His father was in control of this entire game, and he was the one pulling the strings all along. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Sarah, Michael, the conspiracies, they had all been part of a larger plan, one that Vincent had never been prepared for. And now, the most devastating truth of all. Chief Alex, the man Vincent had looked up to, was the mastermind behind it all. As the realization struck, Vincent's world crumbled. He was shattered. Everything he had worked for, everything he thought he knew, had been orchestrated by the one person he never thought would betray him. "Father," Vincent whispered, his voice filled with heartbreak. You were the one who set all of this in motion?" Chief Alex didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said it all. Vincent sat in his father's study, the weight of the world on his shoulders. His mind was racing. Everything he thought he knew was falling apart. Michael, his closest friend, had turned against him. Sarah, the maid he trusted, was hiding something big. The feeling of betrayal was overwhelming. "Father," Vincent said, his voice tight. "Michael, he's behind all of this. He's working with Sarah, and I don't know who else. I need answers. I deserve to know the truth." Chief Alex looked up from his papers, his face calm as always. But there was a flicker in his eyes. "You've been under too much stress, Vincent," his father said, walking toward him. "It's easy to feel lost when things aren't going your way." "No, Father," Vincent replied, his anger rising. "This isn't about stress. This is real. Michael and Sarah, they've betrayed me. But why? What's going on?" Chief Alex paused, and for a moment, Vincent thought he saw something like hesitation, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "You need to trust me, Vincent," Chief Alex said. "This is bigger than you think. The world doesn't work the way you believe it does." Vincent couldn't hold back his frustration anymore. "Stop talking in riddles, Father. What do you mean by that?" But instead of answering, Chief Alex simply walked to the door and opened it. "You need to rest, son. I'll take care of everything." Vincent stood still, feeling the weight of his father's words. There was something more here, something his father wasn't telling him. Just as Vincent was about to speak again, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Michael. "You won't understand until it's too late, Vincent. I'm sorry for what's about to happen." Vincent's heart skipped a beat. What was Michael talking about? He rushed out of the room, his mind racing. He had to get to the bottom of this. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that his father was at the center of it all. Vincent decided to head to the last place he would have expected, the family archives. It was a place filled with old records and business documents from years past. If there was any clue about what was really happening, it would be there. When he arrived, he searched through the piles of papers, hoping to find something in that would explain the mess his life had become. And then he found it, an old letter hidden in a file marked with his name. It was from Chief Alex. The letter was short, but the words were clear. "Vincent, you're too blinded by your empire to see the truth. The power you crave is not yours to hold. It's time for you to step aside." Vincent's hands shook as he read the letter. Step aside? What did that mean? As he stood there, staring at the letter, he realized something even more shocking. His father, Chief Alex, had been planning this all along. Vincent's empire, the business he'd worked so hard to build, was never meant to be his. It was all part of a game, and Chief Alex was the one calling the shots. Vincent's heart sank. He couldn't believe it. All this time, he had trusted his father. He had looked up to him. And now he was learning that Chief Alex was the one pulling all the strings, using Vincent as a pawn in his game. "Father," Vincent whispered to himself, "you've been setting me up all along." Just then, the door to the archive room opened. It was Michael, walking in with a cold expression on his face. He didn't speak at first. "I didn't want this for you, Vincent," Michael said finally. "But it had to happen." Vincent looked at him, his mind a blur of anger and heartbreak. "Why, Michael? After everything? How could you do this?" Michael sighed, his face full of regret. "It wasn't my choice. Your father made sure of that." Vincent felt like the ground was slipping beneath him. His best friend, the one person he trusted most, had been part of the plan all along. "Your father was always in control, Vincent," Michael continued. "You just never saw it. He's been waiting for the right moment to take everything from you. And now, that moment has come." Vincent felt his world crumble around him. His best friend, his father, very one he trusted, had been working against him. He had spent his whole life building this empire, thinking it was his, only to realize it was never meant to be. As Michael turned to leave, Vincent stood frozen in place, the truth hitting him like a cold wave. His father had been the one behind it all. Chief Alex was the real mastermind. The man he had trusted his entire life was the one who had set him up for failure. Vincent's heart shattered. One morning, as Vincent sat in his office, his phone rang. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, and instinctively, he hesitated. His mind was clouded with the recent chaos, the betrayals, and the haunting words from his father. He almost didn't pick it up. But something inside him, some deep, unexplainable pull urged him to answer. With a deep breath, he swiped the screen and brought the phone to his ear. "Hello?" A familiar voice, soft and calm, broke through the silence. "Vincent?" For a moment, Vincent's heart skipped a beat. The voice was so familiar, yet it felt like a distant memory. He blinked, disbelief and confusion flooding his senses. "Nora," his voice cracked, his breath catching in his throat. "Is it really you?" There was a long pause before she spoke again, her voice tinged with both sorrow and urgency. "Yes, Vincent, it's me, your mother." Vincent's mind reeled. His mother? The woman he thought had been dead for years? Chief Alex had told him she was gone, that she had abandoned him. Yet here she was, speaking to him as though no time had passed. His hands trembled as he gripped the phone tighter. "Mother," he whispered, his voice breaking. "How? I thought you were—" "I know what your father told you," Nora interrupted gently, her tone filled with a sadness that Vincent could feel across the line. "But I'm alive, Vincent. I've been alive this whole time, and I've been watching over you." The weight of her words hit Vincent like a punch to the gut. All this time, he had believed the lie Chief Alex had fed him. His mother had been alive. She hadn't abandoned him. "Why now?" Vincent asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Why are you calling me after all these years?" Nora's voice grew softer. "There are secrets you need to know, Vincent. There's so much you've been kept in the dark about. Tomorrow, meet me at Havana's Garden at 7 p.m. It's time for you to understand everything that's been happening, everything your father has done. You need clarity." Vincent was silent for a moment, the shock of hearing from his mother overwhelming him. Havana's Garden. That place held memories, but now it would hold answers. Answers he desperately needed. "I'll be there," he finally managed to say, his voice determined. "I need to know the truth." Nora's voice softened once more. "I'll be waiting, Vincent, but be careful. They've been watching you for years. Nothing is what it seems." Before Vincent could ask another question, the line went dead. He sat there, holding the phone, his mind spinning. His mother, the woman he had thought was dead, the woman who had been forced to disappear, was alive, and she was asking to meet him. He stood up from his desk, pacing back and forth, trying to process the bombshell he had just received. Everything he thought he knew about his life, about his family, had been shattered. Chief Alex had lied to him for decades, and now Vincent was about to meet the woman who held the answers to his deepest questions. The truth about his father. As the day passed in a blur, Vincent found himself thinking about everything that had led to this moment. His father, Chief Alex, had always been the center of his world. But now, he could see that his life had been a lie from the start. Everything, his empire, his success, his very identity, had been built on secrets and manipulation. Vincent's thoughts drifted back to his childhood, to the memory of his parents and their strained relationship. He had always wondered why there was so much tension between them, why his father was so cold and distant, and why his mother had seemed so unhappy. But he never knew the real reason. As he prepared for the meeting with his mother, Vincent couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in the pit of his stomach. He had been living in the dark, manipulated by the very people he had trusted most. The secrets were about to be revealed, and Vincent was determined to uncover the truth no matter what it cost him. 25 years ago, Chief Alex and Nora had been legally married, but their happiness was short-lived. They had tried for years to have children, but Nora had suffered from infertility issues. Despite the pain and disappointment, they had decided to adopt, and that's how Vincent had come into their lives. But just 2 years later, everything changed. Nora had discovered the unthinkable Chief Alex had gotten their maid pregnant. The shock and betrayal had been too much for Nora to bear. When she confronted her husband, he had threatened her, warning her that she had no idea what he was capable of. From that moment, Nora had never known peace. Chief Alex had turned violent, using his power to send high-level killers to threaten her. Vincent's mother had fled, running away to another city to escape the terror Chief Alex had unleashed upon her. And from that day on, she had never returned. Vincent's world had been built on the foundation of that lie. He had been told that his mother had abandoned him, that she had chosen to leave her family behind. But the truth was far darker. Nora had never wanted to leave. She had been forced to run, her life in danger, because of the man she had once loved. Vincent finally understood the cruelty behind Chief Alex's actions. The reason his father had always been so distant, so cold, was because Vincent wasn't his biological son. The true heir to his empire wasn't Vincent, it was Michael, the maid's child. Vincent's world was crumbling. Everything he had believed about his life, about his family, was a lie. The empire he had fought to build, the power he had worked so hard to gain, had never been meant for him. But there was still one piece of the puzzle missing. What had happened to Michael? Why had he betrayed Vincent? What role did he play in all of this? As the day passed in a blur, Vincent found himself thinking about everything that had led to this moment. His father, Chief Alex, had always been the center of his world. But now he could see that his life had been a lie from the start. Everything, his empire, his success, his very identity had been built on secrets and manipulation. Vincent's thoughts drifted back to his childhood, to the memory of his parents and their strained relationship. He had always wondered why there was so much tension between them, why his father was so cold and distant, and why his mother had seemed so unhappy. Vincent's world had been built on the foundation of that lie. He had been told that his mother had abandoned him, that she had chosen to leave her family behind. But the truth was far darker. Nora had never wanted to leave. She had been forced to run, her life in danger, because of the man she had once loved. Vincent's thoughts were a storm of confusion and anger, but there was more. Nora wasn't finished. "There's something else you need to know," she said, her voice becoming more serious. "When I ran away, I didn't go alone. I had to make sure you were safe, that you weren't being manipulated by your father. I sent someone to keep an eye on you, to feed me information about everything that was happening behind closed doors. And that person, Vincent, was Michael." Vincent's mind went blank. His stomach twisted in knots as the name hit him like a ton of bricks. Michael, his best friend, the man he had trusted more than anyone. "Michael? You mean to tell me?" Vincent's voice cracked. "Michael was working for you all this time? All this time, and I never knew?" Nora's face softened with the weight of what she was about to say. "Yes, but there's something you don't understand, Vincent. Michael never knew I was your mother. He thought I was just some distant figure working from the shadows. I had to keep my identity hidden from him. If he had known the truth, it would have jeopardized everything." Vincent stared at her in disbelief. "You hired Michael as a spy? He was working for you and he didn't even know who you were?" Nora nodded slowly. "Yes, I couldn't risk him finding out. Not yet. I knew your father would manipulate him too, just as he manipulated you. Michael's loyalty was always to your father, but I needed someone close to him to understand what was really going on, to watch over you, without suspicion. But I never intended for Michael to be so deeply involved in this. He became a pawn in the game just as you did." Vincent shook his head, trying to process it all. His mind was reeling. Michael had been helping his mother for years, unknowingly. But now, Vincent realized that Michael's involvement in the conspiracy had been far deeper than he could have ever imagined. "How could he not know?" Vincent murmured, still trying to grasp the complexity of the situation. "He's been my friend for so long. How did you keep him in the dark?" Nora's eyes filled with sorrow. "I told him I needed someone close to your father to gather information, to help me understand the moves he was making. He agreed to help without question. He was drawn in by the idea of loyalty and the need for power, just as your father had been. But the truth, Vincent, he never knew that I was your mother. That was the secret I kept from him." Vincent leaned back, his head spinning. Michael, the man who had betrayed him, who had secretly been working against him for years, had never known the full extent of the deception. He had been played by both Nora and Chief Alex. "But why?" Vincent asked, his voice low with anger. "Why didn't you tell him? Why did you make me part of this twisted web? What did you hope to accomplish by hiding this from me?" Nora sighed deeply, her gaze distant, as if she were revisiting the painful past. "I had no choice, Vincent. Your father's cruelty was only the beginning. I knew I couldn't fight him alone. The only way to protect you, to keep you from falling deeper into his control, was to stay hidden. I couldn't reveal my identity to Michael because if he had known the truth, he would have seen you as a threat. He would have turned on you even sooner." Vincent's chest tightened as the implications of her words hit home. He had been a pawn, both in his father's and in his mother's games. But now, with everything laid bare before him, Vincent could see the ugly truth. "And Michael," Nora continued, her voice tinged with regret, "he was never meant to be your enemy. He was just another victim in your father's game. But by the time I realized what had happened, Michael had already been drawn so deep into your father's web, there was no turning back for him. He became loyal to the empire, to the idea of it. He had no idea that his mother, the woman who had secretly watched over you, was trying to protect you all along." Vincent sat back, his head spinning with everything he had just learned. Michael had been a pawn all along. He had unknowingly worked for Nora, never realizing she was Vincent's mother. His loyalty to Chief Alex was never his own choice. It was all part of the manipulation, a master plan to control both men. But the truth, as it always does, came too late. Now, Michael was fully entangled in the web of betrayal, just as Vincent had been. "How can I trust anyone now?" Vincent muttered, more to himself than to Nora. My whole life has been a lie." Nora reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "You don't have to trust anyone right now, Vincent. What's important is what you do next. You have the truth now, and that's all that matters. You know who your real enemy is. You know the cost of trust." Vincent looked at his mother, finally understanding the depth of the conspiracy. He had spent his entire life fighting for a place that was never meant to be his. But now, the pieces were falling into place, and Vincent knew what he had to do. "I'm going to confront him," Vincent said, his voice filled with cold determination. "I'm going to take back what's mine, and I'll bring down the empire me father, Michael, all of it." Nora gave him a sad, knowing look. "You don't have to do this alone, Vincent. But know this. Your father will fight to keep control, and Michael will stand in your way. The battle ahead won't be easy." Vincent nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. The truth was finally out, and there was no turning back now. Vincent's mind was a whirlpool of confusion and anger as he left Havana's garden. The conversation with his mother had shattered everything he thought he knew about his life, his family, and his future. The more he thought about the conspiracy, the more his world felt like it was crumbling. He was alone, truly alone. No one to trust. His best friend, Michael, had betrayed him, and his father, the man he had looked up to, had manipulated him for years. As Vincent walked toward his car, the weight of everything pressing down on him, his thoughts were interrupted by a sudden sound crash. He barely had time to react before his car collided with a woman crossing the street. "What the hell?" Vincent exclaimed, quickly slamming on the brakes. His heart raced as he rushed out of the car. The woman lay unconscious on the ground, her body limp. Panic gripped him. He couldn't just leave her there. He had to help her. Without thinking, Vincent lifted the woman gently and placed her in the car, speeding toward the nearest hospital. The city blurred around him as he drove faster than he had ever driven before, driven by a mix of guilt and urgency. Once at the hospital, Vincent hurriedly paid for her treatment, ensuring that she had everything she needed to get better. The chaos in his mind made him feel numb, detached from everything around him. As he paced the waiting room, his thoughts remained fixed on his mother's revelation. The woman he had just knocked down seemed like a minor detail in his broken world, but he couldn't ignore the pang of responsibility he felt for her. Hours passed, and eventually Vincent was told that the woman had regained consciousness. As he entered her room, he noticed something strange. There was a look of recognition in her eyes as she stared at him, a flicker of something familiar in her gaze. Vincent froze. The moment was tense, thick with unspoken words. "Do I know you?" the woman asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Vincent stared at her, trying to place where he had seen her before. There was something about her face, a subtle familiarity, but he couldn't recall her name. The woman seemed to study him carefully, as if weighing her own thoughts. Then her face shifted with shock, and she gasped, "You're Vincent Moore." Vincent's heart skipped a beat. How did she know him? I'm sorry," he stammered, unsure of how to react. "I don't recognize you. Have we met?" The woman smiled faintly, her eyes welling with emotion. "No, we've never met, but I know who you are. I've known about you for a long time." Vincent's confusion deepened. Who was she? She was clearly not someone from his circle, yet she seemed to know him as if they had shared a history. "Don't worry," she said, noticing his confusion. "It's a long story, and you've done more than enough. You helped me when I had nothing, and for that I am grateful." Vincent nodded, unsure of how to respond. He had been around wealthy and powerful people his whole life, but this woman wasn't someone from his world. She was different. Still, he felt a deep need to ensure she was taken care of. After all, he owed her a debt now, if not for saving her life, then for the strange sense of familiarity she carried. He bought her clothes, food, anything she needed to ensure her comfort during her recovery. As he left her room, his mind was still reeling. The world felt off-kilter, like everything was slipping through his fingers. He thought he could manage everything. He had to manage everything, but this encounter was just another layer of confusion in the storm that was his life. Just as Vincent was about to leave the hospital, his heart nearly stopped when he saw them, Chief Alex and Michael. They were walking through the corridor, clearly headed to the woman's room. Michael, full of concern, was the first to notice Vincent. He immediately rushed to his mother's bedside, checking on her with frantic eyes, his voice filled with worry as he asked what had happened. But what truly shocked Vincent, the thing that shattered him in that moment, was seeing Chief Alex standing beside Michael, acting like he had every right to be there. His father's presence was a cold reminder of everything that had gone wrong in his life. Vincent's eyes widened as he pieced everything together in that instant. This woman, the one he had just helped, was Michael's mother. She was the mistress his father had been involved with. The realization hit him like a wave, and suddenly everything made sense. He had always wondered why Michael seemed to have a strange, privileged relationship with Chief Alex. Now it was clear. Michael was his half-brother, the true heir to his father's empire, not him. Vincent's chest tightened, and for a moment, tears threatened to spill. He didn't let them fall. He wouldn't let himself break down. Not here, not now. But inside, he was shattered. So, she was Michael's mother, his father's mistress, the woman who had been hidden in the shadows of their world. Vincent stood there, frozen in place, as the pieces of his life fell apart. Without saying a word, Vincent turned and walked out of the hospital, the weight of everything pressing down on him. His world was broken, and nothing made sense anymore. His mind raced with questions, but none of them had answers. As he arrived home, the mansion felt colder than ever. There was no warmth left in the place, no comfort. He knew it was time to leave. He couldn't stay there, not with the ghosts of betrayal haunting every room. He grabbed his bags and packed everything he could carry. His life had been stolen from him by the people he had trusted. His father, his best friend, his family, they had all turned on him. The mansion had been his home, but now it was just a prison of memories. Vincent slammed the door behind him, leaving the life he had known behind. He couldn't stay, not under the roof where everything was a lie. As he drove away from the mansion, the night air felt strangely liberating. He was alone now. He couldn't trust anyone. The pain was unbearable, but it was the only thing left. Back at the mansion, Chief Alex would return to find that Vincent was gone for good. Vincent's world felt like it had collapsed into darkness. He walked aimlessly, desperate for something to numb the overwhelming weight of betrayal. He needed to escape, even if only for a few hours. His car drifted through the city streets until he arrived at a low-key bar, the kind where people went to drown their sorrows without being questioned. The dim lighting, the clinking of glasses, and the low hum of murmured conversations were a welcome distraction. Vincent ordered a drink, the burn of alcohol offering a brief respite from his racing thoughts. He leaned against the bar, his mind lost in the chaos that had become his life. What now? He was just another man, broken by the lies of his father and best friend. Everything he had worked for, everything he had believed in, had been taken from him. He needed something, anything, to help him regain control of his life. But fate had other plans. As Vincent sipped his drink, his eyes were drawn to a figure approaching him through the dim light. It was Sarah, the maid from his mansion, the one person who had been in his life, always quietly going about her work. She stood before him now, her eyes scanning his face with a mixture of concern and something more. Vincent didn't recognize the weight in her gaze at first, but as she spoke, the words struck a chord deep inside him. "I see the sorrow in your eyes, Vincent," Sarah said softly, her voice low enough to not draw attention. "I know you're in pain, but there's a way out of this. I have a plan that could help you recover everything Michael is trying to steal from you." Vincent's gaze hardened as he looked at her. He hadn't expected anyone, especially someone like Sarah, to come to his aid. He had never trusted anyone since his world fell apart, but there was something about Sarah, something genuine that made him pause. "What are you talking about?" Vincent asked, his voice rough. Sarah leaned in closer, her eyes locking with his. "Your father has something that could destroy him if it gets out. A file that holds everything he's been hiding. His criminal activities, all his crooked deals, everything he's ever done. He's kept it hidden for years. If we can get that file, Vincent, you can use it to make him give you what's yours." He'll never want it exposed, never want to be jailed. And once we have that file, we can bring him to his knees. Vincent's mind raced. The file. If it was as important as Sarah said, it could be the key to taking everything back from his father, even from Michael. "How do you know about this file?" Vincent asked, his voice edged with suspicion, but also with the slightest flicker of hope. Sarah looked around cautiously before continuing. "I've seen the way your father operates. I've heard whispers. I know where he keeps it hidden. I've planned everything out." Vincent leaned in closer, feeling the urge to trust her. "And what do you want in return?" Sarah's eyes met his, and there was something genuine in her gaze. "I'm doing this for you, Vincent. You've been good to me. I want to help you get what's rightfully yours." Vincent's thoughts swirled as he considered Sarah's proposal. He had nothing left to lose, and the idea of having something, anything, to use against his father was a lifeline. "I'm in," Vincent said finally, the resolve in his voice stronger than it had been in days. Sarah nodded, her expression turning serious. "Good. Here's the plan." Over the next few days, Vincent and Sarah worked in secret, planning every move with precision. Sarah, having served his family for so long, had knowledge of the mansion's inner workings, especially the areas where Chief Alex kept his most important possessions. It was Sarah who found a way to drug Chief Alex's juice, ensuring he would be incapacitated long enough for her to sneak into his inner room undetected. The night of the operation, Vincent's heart raced as Sarah snuck into the mansion, her every move calculated and silent. She found the file hidden deep within the mansion's secure vault, tucked away in a secret compartment in Chief Alex's study. She took the file, along with photocopies of every page inside. It was an intricate web of criminal activity, corruption, bribery, and deals with dangerous people, everything that could destroy him. The next morning, Chief Alex awoke to find the file missing. Panic spread across his face as he searched his study, but it was no use. The file had vanished. He sent his men to search the mansion, but it was Sarah's careful planning that kept them from uncovering anything. Just as Chief Alex's frustration reached its peak, Vincent stepped into the study, holding up the photocopy of the file in his hand. "Are you looking for this?" Vincent asked, his voice calm but filled with authority. He watched as his father's face contorted with shock and fear. Chief Alex's eyes widened, and his face drained of color. All his crooked dealings were in that file. The truth of his entire life, his manipulations, his crimes, everything he had done to keep control was now in the hands of the one person he never thought would defy him. "You wouldn't dare," Chief Alex murmured, his voice shaking with the realization of how close he was to losing everything. Vincent stepped forward, placing the file on the desk in front of his father. "You've spent my entire life controlling me, lying to me, using me as a pawn. But not anymore. You can either hand over what's mine, or I expose everything." The price of power. Chief Alex's world came crashing down as he realized the severity of his situation. The very thing he had worked his entire life to protect, this empire, his reputation, was now in Vincent's hands. "I've worked too hard for this, Vincent," Chief Alex whispered, his voice trembling. "I can't lose it all now." Vincent looked down at the file, then back up at his father. "You're going to lose it all, one way or another. But if you give me what's rightfully mine of me, part of the family fortune, Ethan, maybe I won't have to expose you. But if you don't, you can forget about it all." Tears welled in Chief Alex's eyes, his pride crumbling. "I'll give you what you want," he said, his voice barely audible. "Just don't destroy me, Vincent. I'll give you your share, your part of the family legacy." With the file secured and his father defeated, Vincent's life began to turn around. He had reclaimed what was his, and the power that had been stolen from him now rested in his hands. But there was one more thing that changed everything, Sarah. As Vincent's life settled, he found comfort in Sarah, the woman who had been by his side through it all. She had been his ally when no one else could be trusted, and in the end, they found love in the midst of all the chaos. Vincent and Sarah married, building a future together with the wealth and power that had once been ripped away from him. The family fortune was now theirs, and Michael was left with little, his position shattered, his trust betrayed by both his mother and his father. As for Chief Alex, he lived the rest of his days in disgrace, unable to reclaim the power he had once wielded with such authority. Vincent and Sarah ruled the empire, but this time it was different. They had earned it, together. Please rate the story from 0 to 10. See you in the next story.